Welcome to the general brief of the campaign Operación Cóndor. I am Chogun and I will give you a detailed briefing about the overview of the campaign, plus some rules and some administrative things. We will follow this agenda with a campaign overview, theater overview, rules, administrative things that we have to consider to participate in this campaign, and some special instructions related to the different options that you have in the campaign to do capture of bases, take some enemy lands, and things like that. First, the campaign overview is a player versus player. In the beginning will be limited to only 40 pilots each side. Then if the server is going well, we will increase that number, but in the beginning will be only 40 each side. It's a symmetrical campaign. Everything, each side have the same possibilities to buy, the same system and the same quantities and the same rules. The only difference will be the distribution of the bases and industries, but we made it in a way that will be the most, trying to be the most geometrical in between the south and the north. So trying to have the same distances and the same separation. But in any case, you will see that the blue side is more concentrated than the red one. The red one have a lot of more of deep in the territory. The operations will be in the three-dimensional level, mostly in the air, of course, but we will try to upgrade these campaigns to a more deep ground operation, and we will have the naval option too to realize operations. We have here too logistic and economical management. That is something original that we are doing. We have done this only one time before, so this is our second version of this kind of campaign where each team have to control the system that they want to buy and where to put it, and then if they require, make the request or take crews to move items from one base to another base. The side that will win will be the side that reach the more quantity of victory points at the end of the turn 6, because this campaign will be done only in 6 turns, and each operational turn will take 3 hours. The only unit that each side will have is an aircraft carrier that will be in the more faraway port of the float line. Nothing more will be added to any side, so you will have to buy anything that you want between surface-to-air systems, aircraft, weapons, naval assets, tanks and artillery groups, and trucks, and any other things that you require to comply with your objectives. There are a lot of special actions, like the creation of forward air bases, FARPs. You have the option to use special forces and V-TACS in infiltration via an air operation with helicopters or by the use of trucks. And you have the options of use of the capture, air or army bases in enemy territory. And lastly, you have the option of use nuclear weapon. Below you will see a table that show you the action that you have to do for get the victory points. For example, in the first column you will see the 3 types of air bases: main, secondary, and airport or airfields. In the case, for example, the secondary base, you have, or each team start with 9 secondary bases. Each secondary bases have 30 DPIs that if you destroy all of them, you will get 300 victory points. If you capture the base, you will get 600 victory points. In this column, you will see which is the potential. If you do all the destruction of the 9 secondary base, you will get 2,700 points. Or if you capture all the bases, the secondary bases, you will have 5,400 points. The next one is the income. There are some industries, all the industries, sorry, the port, the oil rings, and the air cargo vessel, all of these ones will give you money for the next turn. So, for example, one port, you have two in the scenario, will give you each one of them 300 million of US dollars that you can use for buy aircraft, planes, surface to air systems, chips, whatever you want. If the enemy destroy, for example, one port with 40 DPIs, the enemy will get 1000 victory points and you will lose the income in the next turn of 300. You can see in the bottom that each turn, if no one accomplishes any of these objectives, each team will get 2000 millions of US dollars. There are other things. For example, you have political targets, you have the army bases here, you have a penalty in case that you destroy a building that is not in the GAPTL. You will get minus 50 victory points for each building that you destroy. And you will get points in case that you capture some segment that you will see in this presentation later related to the ground operations. You could get penalties in victory points or money for infractions, and you can exchange victory points for money if you require more money and you have a lot of victory points. Okay, the theater. The theater, as you can see, is divided by one line in one parallel that divide north and south. In the south is the blue team that will be your fighting wing, the 51, in charge of this area that have a part of Israel, Jordan, Iraq, and the south of Lebanon and Syria. You will see here in these icons the main bases with an icon of a BE1, the secondary bases with an icon of F-16, and the airfields with an icon of 1C-130. You can see in red all the industries where they are. The blue ones are the army bases. The black one, you have two types. The ports, for example, you have Beirut and Haifa. The red team have Tripoli and Latakia. And you have the political targets. For example, here in Homs, the red team have 5 DPIs related to political buildings. You could see to here where there are the oil rings, and here you can see where you will have each team the convoys of oil vessels that will be moving between this point and the port of Haifa, and in case of the red team will be between this point and Latakia port. The yellow one are target folders and targets that are not part of this campaign. And you can see that not all the bases are in use. There are some neutral bases. For example, Meses in the Syrian territory is in yellow. This base will not be used by any team. You can only land, but you cannot take fuel or weapons from that airfield. Neither any in the Cyprus island. Over there, no one can use it from any side, like Gazipasa in the north, like San Liufa in the north in Turkey territory, or Aleppo airport or Adana airport. That ones are neutral too. In the middle, you will see the strips that we will comment in more detail, but here in this area is where the ground forces will take part. Only in that part. You cannot see tanks moving in this area. Only in this area you will see the combat of ground units. Making a zoom in the red territory, you will see that you have a most concentration of air bases in Damascus and in the west part of your territory, and you have some bases in Iraq and Jordan. The helicopters crew could use the army bases too to make the starting point of them, like Antaf army base have 2 places for helicopter, and Miguel Cervantes, for example, have another ones, and Rochpina is an airfield that have places for helicopter. In the case of the red team, you will see here that in this case we will add some helipad for them to take off from these bases that are in this area. Each team have 5 army bases, and from these bases they could have helicopters movements and have the movement of tanks or artillery pieces. Okay, the main rules. Here I will extend a little more because we need to be clear. In any case, you will have the AOD, that is the reference. So if anything differ between here and the AOD, you have to take the AOD as the reference. Espionage, espionage is allowed for, so be careful where you put your information, where you train, where you put your tag views, and wherever, because each team will have spies that will try to take the information from you. Okay, another important topics is about the victory points planning, resources, and inventory. As I told you, collateral damage have a penalty of 50 victory points. Each team have to design a list, a JFAC and a DBT JFAC that will be the the only two that will be in contact with V-TACS team to manage any problem or make questions or anything that you require from us. Must be only these 2 persons, not any other, because if not, could be very a great mess for us to manage. 40 plus 40 in each team will be impossible for us. So only these 2 persons. You could use iCraft with AI only for air-to-air role. They cannot do anything related to air-to-ground, and with a maximum in any time of 12 in the air. You could have only 12 movement of at the same time of iCraft. The reason of this is to preserve the server and don't have any collapse of that server. With the ground unit, we have the same another limit of 30 for each team. You can have movement of them only 30 units at the same time. If in the first mission we reach a good FPS and we don't have any problem, we could increase this number. But for now, only 30. So if you need to move 100 units, you will have to choose first 30, move them, choose where they will stop, and then start the movement of the next 30 ones. Or you can do it by 5 by 5, whatever you want. But if we check that in the server you move 31 or more units at the same time, you will have a penalty in money that will go to the enemy, so they will increase the budget that they have for the next turn. Aircraft and weapons will be maintained according with the inventory that you could see inside of the DCS in each base. So this is an important thing. DCS only add an aircraft that land in an airfield when the player goes to a spectator after finish the flight. If they quit the exit likely without going previously to a spectator, DCS will not take back this airplane again to the inventory and you will lose that airplane. And as I told you here in the point number 5, what we do at the end of the mission, of the turn, we go and take all the information of the inventory. Weapons and aircraft and fuel tanks and whatever that there is in each base, we will take it and put it in an Excel sheet. So if you don't do this procedure well, you will lose aircraft and the aircraft with all the things that the aircraft have. Missiles, bombs, TGP or whatever the aircraft have. So be careful with this because we will not make any arrangement or any fix of that. We will follow what is at the end of the turn in each base. So if you land in the highway, if you land in any other place, that aircraft will be lost. Be careful with big airports like Beirut, that you have to be inside of the circle, the black circle that is centered in the middle of the airfield. If you get out from one of the third hole, for example, the runway 19 or the right, something very far away from the center, you could lose the aircraft too. So be careful about that. The destruction of the warehouse and fuel tanks that are in each airfield will affect your inventory and will affect the possibility to continue operation. If you lose all the fuel tanks in one base, you will be unable to continue taking fuel from that base. So be careful about that. One tip, the fuel tanks always have fuel wherever the quantity of fuel is in the inventory of that base. So that is the only option to take out of an aircraft of that base. But the idea is that if the enemy destroys the fuel tanks, you will have to decrease your operation of that base. Combined arms can be used for the movement of ground units and to activate or deactivate or put all or weapons free to the units, so you can manage the surface to air system and you can manage the tanks and artillery. Users must be connected to the server with, in the case of your team, with a Bravo and then this line. Then you can put whatever you want next to that. But the idea is to have that, and you will suffer a penalty if you don't follow this rule. Why? Because then we make an Excel sheet that have all the statistics of the mission, and we'll give you that to you, and it's more easy if you have this letter in the beginning, so you can know very fast how many missiles each team fire, how many bombs they fire. So that rule is very important for the post-briefing information. And another rule that is important for preserve the server is that you cannot use more of 12 salts in a period of 10 minutes for each team. Be careful with that because you know that this system make a lot of saturation of the CPU of the computer that is the server, and with this mission that have a lot of units could be a problem if you release more of 12. Penalties. The penalties, as I told you before, is with money. Normally, could be an invalidation of the effects that was made by one team that make a penalty, and could be with victory points. The idea is use normally money that will be given to the opposite team. So, for example, if you enter to the server with the nickname without following the rules that I told you in the previously slides, you will have to pay, or the enemy team will receive 10 US million of dollars. Okay. in case of things that will be very important, for example, you make a violation that have a huge implication of in the mission and in the progress of who will win this campaign, we could increase the quantity of money that you will have to, so the enemy will receive, or we can make an invalidation. For example, if you buy an additional Ticonderoga chip that was above the limit, and that aircraft, that chip, sorry, shot down 3 aircraft, we will give them back the aircraft and the armament to the team that lose that aircraft, because if the team follow the rules, that aircraft have never been there, or will be impossible that that the chip will be there. So all the things that that chip make are invalidated. Plus, you will have the penalty to make that mistake. So please read all these rules and be careful when you buy things and with the things or the things that you're doing with the units that you are buying. We could too, for example, if you make any violation that allows you to capture a base and you get victory points, but with this contamination of this penalty, we will give victory points to the other side in compensation for, because you managed to get the base, but you make a violation doing that. So we will compensate the other team with victory points. The quantity will depend on the circumstances and how much the violation of the rule make or allow you to capture that base, for example. If it was the main reason, you will get, or the enemy will get all the victory points as same as you have because of that. If it's partially, we will manage that. The idea is to make an equilibrium and trying to force each team to follow the rules and don't make violations that will at the end make the game not very friendly, I will say. And yeah, that is with penalties. Okay, we will give you different documents and files. You will see in the folder with this campaign and one file that have the AOD with the special instructions. You will see join integrated priority target list with all the DPIs that we have collected from the theater. You have to be careful there to check which one are for you, because there are more or almost 4,000 DPIs, so not all of them are in use and not all of them are enemies. Okay, so follow the numbers. Normally each target or each DPI have 4 numbers. You will find target folders with images of each DPI and the target, so you can have a reference of which building is, so you will minimize the mistake that you could have adding coordinates. You can check it with your mission editor and see which building it is the right target that you have to destroy. You will have Operation Cóndor campaign tables. Here you will find, for example, a logbook where the JFAG can make complaints or can make questions and requests. You will find here two different tables. One of them with the inventory, where you could buy, you can put the thing that you want to buy, and you will see how much money are you spending in that operational turn. And you will see here, you will have to the mobility tab that will allow you to give us information. For example, where will be the bullseye for your team, and all the things that you cannot put in a static template, you will have to write that. For example, you want one unit to attack a red group. You can do it with the instruction, and we will finish that procedure. You could buy aircraft with a human or without human to move items from one base to another base. And here you will see the times, the deadline that you have for each document or file that you have to send or update in the cloud. At the right, you have the calendar. For you, is the Operación Cóndor, is in green. These are the dates. Is always a Saturday in the afternoon. Okay, some special instructions about the base capture. You have to ensure the destruction of all the ground unit that the owner of that base have, and in the perimeter of the base. You can see that in the F10 map. Then you have to put at least one ground unit inside of that radius, and with that the base will change color, and we allow you to buy things for the next turn and make operation from that base and take weapons and aircraft from that base. In the case of JFAC and special forces, they could be carried by helicopters. They have to be moved from the air or land base or FARP, that could be two, to the place where you wanted them. Or can be moved by trucks if you don't have helicopters to do it. That this one have to be pilot client users, or cannot be with the AI. The helicopter in this case have to land in a landing zone that must be given before of the mission to us of 6,000 feet, 1 mile of radius, and must land for 2 minutes. With that, we will activate the JFAG special operation, special forces that will be simulated with this vehicle, SPG Striker, that have 18 rounds of 105 millimeters. With that, you could make, as a JFAG, make lacing, take coordinates, give information of movement of enemy to your team, or you can destroy, for example, with this cannon, buildings. Normally, you could destroy between 2 and 3 buildings, or you can destroy aircraft or anything that you have over there. Cannot be used for capture bases. That is the only restriction that you have with this operation. In the case of the surface-to-air system and AAA, there are different kinds of system. We have the self-propelled surface-to-air system, like an SA-15, like a group of SA-6 that they can move. And there are others that cannot move, like the SA-10, the SA2, SA3, 5, they are fixed. And you have systems that require more of one unit. We put the name of SA with more complexity. So you have some rules to them. I will not extend on that, but the most important is that the self-propelled SA unit, they can start the movement from air or ground bases. Meanwhile, the fixed only can be placed in air or ground bases, industries, and port. And from that position, they will not move more. You will see another instruction about how far the units could be. I don't want to be extended too much in this briefing. But another thing important is that if you have damage, only if you have damage of one or more unit, but less of the 50% of the total quantity of unit that complex surface-to-air system have, you could take it back and you will receive a 50% of the value of that unit, of that group of units. And you can use that money for whatever you want in the next turn. But if the enemy destroys more of the 50%, more than a half, you cannot make this recycle of the unit. About armor and ground operations, what is important to know is that only can be used or move from ground bases or farms, and that the Abrams tanks are the only ones that can be used for attack and defense. The T-80s tanks can be buy and only be used for defense. The idea is to make a more easy discrimination in the theater for the helicopter crew or A-10 crew or whatever who will be making the CAS missions or similar, to be able to, for them to difference between friendly and foe. So be careful with this. T-80s from your side never could be in enemy territory. They can never cross the flood. The ground campaign will be developed in 3 strips, each one between 60 nautical miles long and 30 wide. Each strip has 4 segments. Each team controls 2 segments at the beginning of the campaign. And we will see here, this is the picture. The strip A is in the coast between Beirut and René Mouat. You have the strip B in this valley between these mountains, and then the strip C. Here is the flop in this area, and this is the segment 1 of the strip Alpha. This is the segment 2. So if the red team have more ground units in this area, at the end of the turn, we will say that they capture this land and they will get victory points. If they capture this other in the next operational turn, they will get the points for the second segment that is the double of this. So this one gets you more points. You can capture only one time, and if, for example, the blue team recapture this one, you will not get victory points. The victory points are only for the team that conquer an enemy territory or segment one time in all the campaign. You see here you have bases. If you take, for example, this land and you take the base, you will get a lot of victory points. You will have the second segment victory points and the base capture. So this is a good option for get a lot of points. Okay, about the farm. The farm can be purchased and will consist in a helicopter platform. Pad single is the static unit that we will use, and 3 ammo storage, the farm ammo storage. All the structure must be in a radius of 0.5 nautical miles, and for establish a farm by air, you have to use a helicopter that can lift cargo, and with that helicopter you will take an UH-1H cargo and move it from an industry or port, not from an army base, to the position that you previously give us. You will leave the load over there, you will land the helicopter for a period of 2 minutes in a radius of less of 1 mile from the load, and then we will put the units and you can use it for respawn of helicopters or Harriets, and to reload fuel or weapons for fixed wing aircraft that they could land, for example, in a highway and take fuel and weapons from that place. If you don't want to do it by air, you can make it by land using 6 trucks that will follow the instruction of starting from the industry point, and probably they will have to start from the army or air base, move to industry, and then move to your established point. So probably will take more of 1 turn. Probably will take more of 3 hours to establish the FARP. In the case of chips and nuclear weapons, chips can be used to attack other military chips, not cargo chips, not oil platforms like oil rings, not units in the ground, any kind of unit, SAA, wherever, and DPIs. And neither, in the case of the Ticonderoga, that is the only one that we know that have missiles that could be launched to buildings in the ground, they can, in this campaign, they cannot be used the Tomahawk. Okay, this is for take care of the server, and our idea is that the DPIs must be destroyed by players. Okay, the idea is that players destroy the DPIs, human players, not the AI. The AI cannot win the war. Must be players. And the last rule that I want to mention, there are a lot of more, so I suggest you to read the AOD. In the case of a nuclear detonation, for each of nuke that explode, the site that was affected by that nuclear detonation will receive 500 million of US dollar as a financial support from the international community. And that is all the general brief about this campaign. You can see you will have a combat flight file where you could see with more deep the distribution of the bases and industries, and you will have all of these documents in this carpet in this folder of the campaign that you will have access. Finally, I want to make a warm welcome to the Fighting Win 51. You are our guests here. We will take care. The idea for us is to uh, share with us these type of campaigns that are more complex, more close to reality, because we integrate the logistical part behind. We give you the options to create your own defense with chips, with surface-to-air system. And the idea is to integrate the air operations with the ground operations, because normally we focus in DCS in the F-16, and we put aside the attack helicopters or the A-10. In this case, you could use it. Will be more complicated because you will not have control of the air, probably, to be easy for you to use your air asset in the air-to-ground missions. But the idea is to have the experience of how difficult could be. So in this case, I think, in my opinion, is a theater very close of what we could see in Ukraine, where it's difficult to use their asset in the ground campaign because you have a lot of surface-to-air system that suddenly they start to emitting, and in a few seconds they fire a missile and they shut down the aircraft. So it's very difficult, and something like that is what we're making here, plus all the planification backstage. That is because you have a lot of options. You could go for the industries, you could go for the air bases, and you can follow the US doctrine about air power and go for the external ring, and go for the armed forces first and go for the air bases, or go for the inner ring and go for the industries, for the port. So what we have learned in the previous campaign that we did is that there is very interesting how each team follow different objectives, they make different tactics, and you will be very surprised of what the enemy could do. Most of the time, each team never thought the enemy will do this or the other thing. So normally is a lot of surprises. So my suggestion for you is to be open mind, be clear that anything could happen because you have really an enemy that have a very have a lot of possibilities, things that they can do. So don't be frustrated if things are not working as you thought that will be working, because normally like that is war. War is always uncertainty. So that is the idea, to you to get that, and for us it will be a pleasure to share all the work we have done to make this possible. So I hope that you will enjoy that. I know that all the players that will be involved will enjoy it a lot because it's really special, this type of campaigns. So thank you very much and good fight.